to go.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is geez, what day is today?
Wednesday, October
28th, the Wednesday, October 28th caucus of the Albany Common Council. As for the record, folks present, let's see, Council President Ellis, other council members are Johnson, Robinson, Frederick, Ballerin, Anani, Conti, Hoey, Fahey, O'Brien, myself, staff, J.R. Pichardo, John Raphael Pichardo, our lawyer, City Clerk Danielle Gillespie, and Michelle Andre from our staff, as well as Corporation Counsel Brett Williams. Did I miss anyone? No? Okay, pretty light calendar this week coming up, excuse me, this meeting coming up. To start out with the agenda, Councilmember Farrell has also joined us. Starting out on the agenda, we have another public hearing or second for the 2021 proposed budget at the start of the meeting. Moving down the agenda, approval of minutes from a previous meeting. We have the October 19th, 2020 meeting minutes for approval. Okay, no local laws. No ordinances. And on to resolutions introduced. Resolution 102-111-20 by myself for honoring Edwin Sperber and naming a portion of Erie Boulevard down by Huck Finn's and Edwin Sperber Way. That will be going to the Finance Committee. That's that. Next resolution is 103-111-20R by Ms. Farrell. This resolution consenting to the creation of 5 full-time positions in housing and community development. That will also be going to finance. And as far as the agenda is concerned, that's what we have. And so we'll move on from that. Anyone have any questions or comments? Richard?
Yeah, you also had those BZA appointment letters, reappointment letters.
Yeah, we got those, but they're in the wrong format to begin with. They've been corrected and resent out with the correct language. We're going to get resolutions for them, and of course they're going to have to go through the committee the proper way for us.
Okay, well, the 45-day clock starts
with the letter, right? It starts with the reception of the letter, correct?
Correct.
Right.
With the date that it was clerked in. But also, Michelle sent out a second group of letters, which I believe are the corrected ones.
They are. They are with the correct
Those
language.
terms are not the correct terms that should apply. So they're all actually, all of these people are serving terms that have expired. Their reappointment should be for balance of the current term. All of the reappointments, though, are being made for a term that's greater than 3 years, which is what the term is. So all of these need to be corrected to reflect the correct terms.
Okay.
And one of them has been expired for over 2 years.
Well, like Rich Berkeley expired on 12/31/19. His reappointment should be for the balance of the term he's currently serving, which would be 12/31/22. Martin Daly, his term expired 12/31/17. Technically, his reappointment should be for the balance of the term he's currently serving, which would be 12/31/20. And Serena Joyce Williams, her term expired 12/31/18. Her reappointment should be for the balance of the term she's currently serving, which would be 12/31/21. I don't know which vacancy page Barnum is being appointed to. I know that there is one vacancy and that there's another member who, I think there are two vacancies. But all of these letters were also submitted to expire on 12/31/23, which means you would have 4 coming up, which totally throws off the
It's
staggering.
not correct. It's okay. So we'll work with JR and Mr. Williams to correct. So we're going.
Yeah, I
to
think
the-
you should also talk with Rich Berkeley, who's chair of the BZA, who also has a handle on what the correct dates are to make these. So we need to maintain the staggering so that they come up. And again, I'm really frustrated that we're getting that the members were allowed to serve so far beyond their term, their expiration date, which really, undercuts our authority as far as confirmation authority. And now we're being bunched all at once to get like 4 names, which we should be getting about 2 names per year.
So maybe through some kind of amendment of the legislation, we could trigger something.
I don't know.
To not allow it to last.
Yeah, I
go
have
that far beyond.
Well, yeah, I'd like to look at something like that. My pending local law on the Historic Resources Commission, which is another one where you have, I think just about everybody serving expired terms, does have some language in there that talks about filling vacancies within a certain period. And I don't know if we can do that with others as well. But, we really need to get a handle on these confirmations because it really goes to our advise and consent authority.
And why can't we consider their terms as really expired? So when they try acting as BZA board members.
JR can speak to that, but public officers law allows you to serve until your replacement is appointed.
And okay, just one second, and I apologize, Tom. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out, is there a limit, Richard, how many terms you can serve?
Only if it's specified in the commission or the authorizing legislation. For HRC, planning, and BZA, there is no limit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so and Mr. Pichardo, maybe you can work on trying to come up with some language or legislation to try to correct the issues that we're talking about.
Kelly,
Definitely I can follow up on that.
Kelly, we have resolution 90.10220. I believe it's going to come up for Darius wants it to come up for a vote for Monday.
Oh,
for
right.
the elimination of the full-time position, and then I believe changing the title in his office. The finance committee is gonna review it prior to our meeting at 6:30 minutes.
Okay, so that'll be a possible. And Ginny, that was the email that you were back and forth with Darius to try to work through that.
I think if it's something that we are going to deal with it on the finance committee meeting on Monday. And I believe we have spoken about it in caucus, but we'll have a slightly more in-depth conversation on Monday with it. We'll be looking to deal with local law K at the following meeting. And I think if we have to deal with the change, the title change in the following meeting, we can, but his preference would be to do it sooner. So.
Okay, if you all get through it in committee on Monday, we can move the resolution that goes along with that local law.
I have a question. We all set? I have a question on local law J and the prime sponsorship. I think all the minority members of the council were advocates for this particular local law. So I'm wondering as to why we're not all prime sponsors for it.
Right now, what it's Mr. Conti.
I don't know. I think JR sent that out to members
Yeah.
to see if they wanted to co-sponsor, and he listed the ones that responded. The other two local laws that were part of the package were never sent out for co-sponsorship. So.
And so it's easy enough to rectify.
Yeah, just anyone who wants
everyone
to
to
be.
be, yeah, to be prime sponsors can
Okay. You
can you
definitely-
notify, can you just let Mr. Pichardo?
Yeah, just send me
No,
an email and I'll make sure I
him
make that
add-
adjustment.
Both
Actually,
for
can I
local,
plug one more? Maybe JR, you want maybe the other two as well?
right, and that's what I was
Resend
about
those
to
out
point.
to everybody and see if, on all three, if other members want to go on as co-sponsors.
Whatever is the pleasure, I have no problem. Let me know.
If we could. Yeah, and so for that public safety meeting that's coming up with the reforms, we're putting it out on Facebook, we're putting it out through our normal means. I'd like for members, to blast it out to their folks. We want to get as much input as we can on this legislation. So that would be helpful. Reminding, and I don't have screen control or even anything to put up, but I'd like to also point out that we have that public comment line phone number for folks to call in. They can start doing that now. There's no need to try to bombard us at, they can start now, based on the public safety meeting notice. They see the legislation there, what's there. And if the public wishes to comment, they can do that now by contacting that line, and we'll deal with the comments. You have to state as a member of the public that it's for the November 5th public safety meeting, and we'll take those comments into consideration for that meeting. Anything else? Any other? Because we have our finance meeting after that. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to find out, do you know when the law committee will be meeting? I have that ordinance on getting rid of the sunset on the hen ordinance.
So you got to work with both the chair of law and
Is that Joe or
and
is
our
that?
staff. It's Joe.
Michelle, if Michelle could set up a meeting, I know you said you have some openings in
We're
November.
looking at December right now. No more November. November is packed. Yeah.
It's good in December.
Okay.
Okay.
And I got one
We had
more.
Something else in there. We had something else in law committee too, if you could look at that. I think.
I believe it's the.
No? Look at the
Yeah,
Michelle.
well, I don't have one, but we need to get the and I don't have it in front of me. The changes to the vendor licenses.
Yes, right, that one too.
The background checks. We need to get that in there also.
Okay.
We can update that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I got a second thing I wanted to bring up, and I didn't write it up. I just want to get like a general feel whether I should move forward or not. We had that windstorm a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of trees went down. And trying to get somebody to cut the trees. What I've heard in my neighborhood, it's up to April, trying to get stuff done. But one of the things that has me concerned was I have a resident who, a tree next door to her, a big branch broke off and landed in her tree. And not only landed in her tree, but then went into a neighbor's yard. And what we heard from Jay Levine is she was responsible for taking that tree out. Even though that's not her tree branch, it was the next door. I never heard of a wall like that. But apparently it's something on the books, and I'd like to see if we can do something about it because, go ahead.
That's not actually a law. That's insurance rules. So that I've had to deal with that in my ward and actually in my house. So by insurance, a tree is considered an act of God. actually in the insurance rules, and it might be state law that governs this. I don't know if it's just insurance rules, but this is the in everyone's homeowner's insurance, it says this. So a tree, it's your job as somebody that owns a house to take care of any trees, even if it's a neighbor's tree. You kind of have to take care of that. And then if your neighbor tree falls into your house for whatever reason, then your homeowner's insurance takes care of it. And the reasoning behind it is, if you think of like a hurricane or a tornado where it picks up a tree from like the woods and then it drops it on your house, like there's nobody, like it's hard to say which tree that's from, or so there's a logic to it. But it is frustrating when you are the homeowner and you have somebody that's not taking care of their trees to take care of. So it's not.
Her insurance didn't pay for it. It was $1,500. Well, it was actually $1,600 with tax to fix. And she was not a happy camper. I said I would bring it up and see if anything could be done. Jay Levine, the forester, said it's law. Now, he didn't say if it's city law or state law. And that's something I could try to find out and come back again with.
Yeah, we can certainly look into it, because I know that that's something I'm sure everybody has to deal with that, because I've had that a bunch of times in my ward too.
Yeah.
Tom, I just want to make you aware, there was a lady that lived in your ward that said a lady who lived in my ward next to her, okay, had a diseased tree, and it was a dangerous situation. The city forester came in and said that was the truth, okay, and that they had to take it down. The lady came in and hired a private forester and said the tree wasn't, okay, but in the long run, they made her take it down. So you don't know.
Go ahead, Mike. And I think in these instances, and I'm not an attorney, notice matters. I had the same thing happen where neighbor's tree during the storm fell, hit my roof, crashed my fence, and it was on me to deal with it. But if it's in such a state, it's a hazard, and you're constantly saying to your neighbor, hey, it's a problem, this is a problem, and then it falls, then maybe you have some leeway. But we'll let the lawyers talk. Mike, go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about something else. Our issue with getting Westview voters to dissolve the post, CDTA is offering to shuttle them at no cost to anybody except CDTA. And they're putting up 5 shuttles for Election Day, 10 a.m., noon, 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m. Have to work out some of the details. And I'm putting it out with our neighborhood associations, Alfredo. I forwarded the email to him. And they're asked to contact if they want to use any of those, so 100 people don't show up on one bus. They're asked to contact the building superintendent at Westview, whose name is Colleen, and I have her number in the email information we're going to send out. But I do want to publicly thank CDTA, because I thought maybe we would have had some luck dealing with the Board of Education, but Board of Elections, excuse me, but we didn't. So CDTA, I think, is doing us a big favor by offering their shuttle service. They deserve credit. That's all I want to say.
Mike, can you forward me that email?
I will.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Conti and then Mr. Ballerin.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the gun violence task force issue, which was in the news, I guess, Monday's paper, and then an editorial in today's paper. And I just this gets me frustrated. I want to make sure people understand that the gun violence task force that was created in 2007 is in no way what the violence prevention task force that was established under the equity agenda ordinances. The 2007 agenda task force, which some members were around, Joe and Corey, I think, and maybe Mike, that was a product of some eventually extensive discussion with the administration. And it was really focused on you had academics on there and research designed to get at the heart of gun violence with a very comprehensive report that came out. And then the second, a gun violence implementation team that was created later. That was a really comprehensive, thorough analysis and research project with a very defined charge. The Violence Prevention Task Force and the Equity Agenda is nowhere comparable to that. So comparisons are totally inappropriate. And some things I see in the paper where the administration is talking about that we're delaying reinstating the Gun Violence Task Force. That's not the case at all. And the Violence Prevention Task Force that we're talking about now is not really technically focused on gun violence. Doesn't mention that. It's really focused on, it seems like, programming for the summer in anticipation of an increase in violence, which is very different than what the Gun Violence Task Force was doing. So we shouldn't be comparing the two or suggesting that we're reinstating it or anything like that. And it's just, just so that we're on the same page. That this comparison just gets me frustrated because we're kind of getting, caught up in this pointing figures about things and we're not focusing on the real issue. So I think we really need to make sure that gets cleared up. And there was also supposed to be a budget line in the budget that I'm not finding. And so I'm not sure if the mayor ever put that money in or not. I can't find it.
Okay, if you can't find it, it's probably not there. But so, just so you know, again, I
just want to make sure people understand the distinction.
Yep. And again, we put for our CFA that it went out for the Violence Prevention Task Force. That's a part of the and tied to the equity agenda. It's not a gun violence task force. It's a violence task force. So we're clear on that. And just so you know, it closes. And I mean, you've mentioned it. It closes on the 30th. If we have to extend it, we could, but we'd like to get started. We have a few applicants, but again, put that, for folks that you think might be good for it or have an interest in it. And we want folks from all walks of life. We just don't want the normal or the usual folks that get involved in these things. We need some community folks to come and be a part of these conversations because it's important. Yeah. Community folks, not just community folks, but community folks from the communities that are most impacted to weigh in and be a part of these conversations.
Right, and that's also different in terms of how the two task forces were comprised, because this one is very focused on community folks from those impacted areas, because the mission is different. The Gun Violence Task Force was from 2007, had non-residents because it tried to bring in experts to look at, the pandemic of gun violence and the roots of gun violence and how to deal with it also as a public health issue. Some people, Joe will remember Dr. Leonard Morgenbesser, who was the driving force behind that.
Yes, I sat in on a lot of those meetings and participated. So, and someone else, Mike, did you, who had some? Oh, Alfredo. Sorry, Alfredo. And then Alfredo, and then DJ. Or Mr. Johnson. Alfredo did have his hand up before.
No, I'm sorry, but I was talking about the same thing that Richard was talking about, and it's hard to go back to your thought. Okay. Unless Alfredo is going to talk about the same thing.
Alec, you can go.
I can go, Alfredo? All right, Richard, once again, thank you for bringing that point up because, I think that we have discussed the violence, some of us, it just so happened the other night, it was more, a lot of people chimed in because the climate that we're living in, people are bothered by what's happening. And, I just think it serves a bad taste. Like, I'm going to say it over and over again about this administration, right? And anytime any one of us talk about what our constituents are bringing up, they always deflect from it. And it just leaves a bad taste in people's mouth. And, it contributes to people not wanting to participate in the processes. So I think that we all should, be strong and stand together about what's been going on for far too long, and not pointing fingers, just saying we need to do something different, and we need to do something different fast. So I just want to say thank you again to everyone, because as you can see, when we speak up about what's going on, people are paying attention, because they haven't been holding this administration accountable like they held administrations in the past. So I think that pressure sometimes motivates people to respond to the community's needs. So I just want to say great job again, because we're getting a conversation started that wasn't happening before. And his point about the gun violence, they're not the same. They're not the same at all. And like I said, it's just misleading people with words, and I'm disappointed. Thank you, Alfredo.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Not a problem. I want to just piggyback on what Mike spoke about, and again, echo his sentiment. Thank everyone involved in trying to address those issues. The CDTA, the Housing Authority, Councilman O'Brien, and everybody else that made, did what they had to do to try to get our, residents to the polls. I also want to commend what a lot of our council members are doing, trying to get their residents to the polls. I've shared information that Councilman Robinson and other council members are doing on the weekends to try to get residents to the polls. And I think it's great work, and it's very exciting to see what everybody's doing. And I commend you all for that, and everyone that's trying to get people, to get, get their voice and their vote in. But I also think we need to work with our counterparts at the county to really encourage our Board of Elections to look at new and creative ways to create initiatives. Schenectady Board of Elections, county is partnering with CDTA to try to get their residents to, to the polls. So it's additional to what we do privately. There's an actual government effort. So it's good what we're doing. And again, it's hard work, and I know it is. And I look forward. I know there's going to be, some opportunities with the Board of Elections to look at, making sure our residents have every opportunity to get to the polls, and making sure that, there is a government effort to make sure their voices are heard. So I just wanted to say that publicly. Thank you.
Let me unmute myself. Okay.
Just to piggyback off of what Alfredo said, and just want to let you all know that there are residents from Westview Homes who are taking advantage of Souls to the Polls. And we've also partnered with CDTA for those with physical disabilities, that they are providing free transportation for those individuals as well. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Robinson. Also, in our leadership conversation, the mayor's office brought up to us that the Palace Theater, you all remember the Palace agreement, that the Palace had sent them a letter asking to to move their first payment, which is due, I believe, January 1st. Am I correct? Beginning of January. They don't want to get out of, can you hear me?
Yeah.
They don't want to get out of paying it. They want to move that first payment to the end. Based on, because of COVID, they haven't been functioning and open. So there's been no revenue, but I mean, they've been doing a lot of community stuff and helping out, but they haven't been having shows. So there's been no revenue, and they're asking the administration's supposed to forward us the letter. That was from our conversation.
They said to forward us the letter. They're just looking for they requested a deferment. The mayor just wanted to kind of keep us in the loop on this and see where we stood on it.
Yeah, a question. So we authorized the transfer of the property back in, actually it was December 31st, 2017. So we're talking now only about a first payment in that installment. There haven't been any payments prior to this?
From the conversation, that's the impression I got, or my understanding of it. How about
I
you?
didn't get that. And I thought that it was, they do a yearly payment. So
Right.
there's a payment schedule.
Yeah, it's a yearly payment.
Okay,
And
so
so
maybe I missed it.
This was the yearly,
Okay.
this yearly payment, they'd like to have deferred a few months so they could have some more time to pay it.
That sound better, Richard? Make
Yeah,
more
I mean,
sense?
I assume that there had been prior payments to
Yes.
this.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was my
yeah.
understanding that they had been up to this point completely
Okay,
on schedule. It's just because of COVID, they asked to defer it to the end of the year as opposed.
okay, that makes sense.
Okay, all right. Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, we can go right into, or in this meeting, caucus will be over and then follow up with the finance meeting.
Yes,
So
and I believe that's officially starting at 6:15. We're expecting to have Parks and Rec this evening. So for any council members that were looking at other exciting things to do that are not finance committee meeting members, I know that there's nothing more exciting than Parks and Rec. So I'm sure you will all want to cancel whatever other plans you had and join in. So we'll be doing that at 6:15, and then of course, there's another exciting finance committee meeting tomorrow. And we'll be sharing out some documentation. I think we're expecting to talk to Corp Counsel's office. Their presentation was sent around. And then we'll also be kind of checking on the budget. So Mike, I believe, has shared with us a document that's kind of shown some of the changes, so we can look at that as well. But that will be tomorrow. So in any case, I think we can take a few minutes and grab something to eat.
yeah, and actually, I'd like to chime in about the desire for some members to get back into the chambers. Our clerk, Ms. Gillespie, moved some of the our desks around and rearranged everything, and found out the hard way that I don't know, everyone's been in the chambers, you know how your power outlet is an outcropping from the floor. The only thing that stops you on most occasions from tripping over it is the fact that it's right against your desk. Well, if you move those desks and leave them in various areas throughout the floor, you end up taking a spill, right, Mr. Gillespie? So again, that's another consideration, not to poo-poo getting back into the chambers, because, and I'd love to do that just like anyone else, but we have to be able to do that safely. So just thought I'd put that out there. You care to add anything to that, Danielle?
Those wooden desks are pretty hard.
So, okay.
And she was actually pretty seriously injured, so.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to virtually get back in, I think we could share the background picture.
I would love it.
Yeah.
We should all get a picture from our desk of what would be behind us.
So what is the reason why we're not we still not going back in?
Well, connectivity, we all members probably wouldn't want to or couldn't go back in, so there'd be a bifurcated meeting. There are a number of issues. Mr. Johnson, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Hi, Mr. Jones. I'm coming from
Hold on. Let me call you right back. Let me pause this.
So yeah, I mean, how do most members? I mean, I think this is getting the job done. Makes meeting easier for now, but I could go back as well. I mean, I don't know how most members feel. It's usually just a few people talking about it. And any other members have thoughts on returning to the chambers? Mr. Conti?
Well, how would we would still have to stream our meetings, correct?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And if we had some members in the chamber and some not, I don't know if that would be really work, but would we still be able to stream?
I mean, that's the way we'd have to do it, and we're trying to set that
There's
up.
a lot of technology issues that we'd have to overcome for it. I mean, I think that we've all been in meetings where, so ideally, one of, some of the issues are if you have a bifurcated meeting. So then if you're watching the meeting, which is the way that the public can actually interact with us. So the public would not be able to really join us in the chambers. So they'd have to watch the meeting. And so the people that would be in the chamber, the public couldn't really see in the same way that they can see when we're on Zoom like this. We wouldn't all be able to be on Zoom because I'm sure everybody remembers when we had that one department where everybody was trying to be on Zoom together and it was a horrible noise. So there's a lot of technology issues with doing it and with including the public. So my big concern and my biggest concern with going back to the chamber is I don't think we're going to be able to really include the public in the same way that we can in a Zoom meeting. And that is one of our biggest functions, is to make sure that we're meeting in a transparent way. I don't see how we can do that in the chamber right now.
Could we use our phones and use the headset so we wouldn't get that feedback problem? You know, so we'd have, everybody would have their phone pointing at them at their desk. It might be worth trying during a caucus where it wouldn't be.
The issue with that would be connectivity. So we don't, I mean, it's something that where perhaps a bunch of us could try it just in, you know, without it being a meeting. But my concern would be, so are we going to be on data, or I don't think our Wi-Fi is strong enough there to be able to.
We would use the phone's connection. We would turn off Wi-Fi.
You're saying use everyone's personal connection to the internet.
Correct.
I mean,
that could work. Like I have my data could handle that because I have unlimited data, but not, I don't know if everybody has, there's just a lot of bigger issues with it.
So can I ask a question? We didn't, our meetings weren't televised. They weren't broadcast live before, right? Before COVID, our meetings weren't live.
But people could go. They can't go. Right now, by law, we have to televise, we have to broadcast them because people can't come to us. So open meetings law, they can't go in the chambers.
But I understand that. But if you look at historically, we've never had a lot of people in our meetings, you know, on a consistent basis. So we're not having a meeting because of forecasts. Because I hear a lot of I, and you know, like others have been saying that they feel like we should be back. You know, I feel like we should be back in there because it's information. It's a bunch of stuff that's missing out because of the processes. And you know, for me, you know, I like to look at stuff on paper. If not for nothing else. So, you know, we've been out of the we've been off the floor for a long time. And, you know, I'm just not understanding, like we keep on talking about why we can't do stuff that we weren't doing before.
So we were doing it before. Anybody was allowed to go to our meeting. It's open meetings law. We have to follow open meetings law.
I understand that. Very clear, Jeannie. I understand that. But what I'm saying to you is that, you know, it was been many times that we had meetings and it was less than 5 people there.
But we didn't say only 5 people could come.
I understand, but we can also come up with alternatives that they can see us. So
the governor has passed a law, the governor has a law passed where we have to do it this way. So that till that runs out in April, we're stuck doing the Zoom meetings.
Well, then if it's a law, then it's a moot point. I'd never heard of that law before that said that we have to meet this way. And I would love to see it.
JR.
Right.
It's an executive
it allows,
that
It's-
allows us to meet
It's
this
an
way.
executive order that was released in the very beginning of the pandemic that has been renewed every 30 days to this point. The exception, the governor waived the exception in the executive order requiring in-person public participation, because the difference, web conference has always been allowed under the under the open meetings law. The difference with this executive order is that per the open meetings law, in order for us to do it via web, we had to make sure that everybody had access to any location where any member would be. The executive order waives that provision and waives in-person public participation. And if we go back into the chamber, we're limiting it and being in violation of the open meetings law by saying we're only limiting 6 people in person. And the 6 people of the public includes anybody from the administration, any person not of the council, because we've already had the council chamber numbered out for council members and staff members. And the 6 include not even just the public, but also any guests, including and the media as well.
That is not the question. That is not the question at all. The question is, can we live stream? If we can live stream, we can go back into the chambers. And yes, it can be limited to 6 people as long as we're live stream. I don't understand. There's no other question. We can go back in the chambers. There's no executive law preventing us from going back in the chambers. It's just the number of people in the chambers executive law prevents. Can we live stream? If we can live stream, we can go back in the chambers. Those who choose to do so can, and those who don't, do from your home. That's it.
Right.
Can we live stream? That's the only question.
Right, but so we still have
And
to
if
work.
that's a yes, then we can go back into the chamber.
We still, the technological piece.
Technology
Remember,
doesn't allow
we
it.
were already lagging technology wise, you know, in our chambers. So I think that's probably the biggest limitation, because so what do? Do we set a camera up for folks that are at home, or even council members that are at home? Do we set a camera up someplace inside of the chambers, so when we're interacting, I mean, we have those budget calls where DGS are like 5 guys in a room and we can see them, you know, the cameras.
No, I think council members.
How do we do it with us?
Council members be on their laptops in the chambers like we do now, like we're home.
And we need to work on getting a Wi-Fi access point in the chambers. Have you tried to do anything on your phone in the chambers?
Absolutely not. I'm looking for. I haven't.
Activity's not there.
So I don't know, but that's the only thing.
The service is not good.
This is not something that should be just long debated.
Right, but then also since we're at it, why don't we add into this? We're coming up on the winter time, so we're no longer to the point where it's hot and we're trying to turn the air conditioners on that drown everything out. It's cold and everything has to be closed up. So whether all of us are in there or not, we're still in there.
So I just wanted to point out that my finance committee meeting is supposed to start. So
let's we
could discuss this at a different place.
But can I just say this before we shut up? Before we you know, all of us be quiet. I wasn't telling anybody shut up before we shut up. Is that from leadership, all you hear is reasons why we can't, and from the members, from some of the members, we're asking why can't we? So like I just hear a lot of I coming from leadership and not thinking about other people's feelings, because it's not just about mine, it's other people that feel the same way.
DJ, the only time I said I is when I'm talking. Is when I'm repeating you. We're saying why it can't happen. And it's not because of me. I agree with you. I'd rather be in the chambers, but I don't do it.
Planning is having open public meetings. Like, I don't understand. Planning is having meetings. So they're having open meetings. Oh no, that isn't an open meeting. Excuse me.
They're not open meetings.
That isn't an open meeting. So,
but plain and simple, I mean, just all of the folks that are in the meeting right now, can by show of hands, who's pressing to go back into the chambers? I mean, we have a number of members here. Can you, I see your hand, Mr. Johnson. I don't see any other hand.
Wow.
I see Mr. Ballerin, and I hear from our president.
Well, is everybody here though?
You know what? I would love to do it, okay? But
Yeah, that's,
I don't think it's healthy right now. I don't think we have the means to do it. There's a lot to be done. Disinfecting, the safety issues all around us. Not only the desk, but just the closeness. The people. Then you're gonna. Well, I think there's a lot.
I'm old school. Everybody knows I'm old school.
Yeah, that's me. I hate this stuff.
I
hate
like paper. I like
like
the interpersonal interaction. I like, it's not the same sitting on my couch with my dogs, barking
Yipping.
on there.
I don't want members to feel like they have to go. I don't think
But-
Joe.
Guys,
I don't.
Yeah,
I
I don't
really
think
want to
we're
start
saying
my
members
finance
have to go.
committee meeting.
Got
Can
it.
we
Okay,
talk about
so-
this at a different caucus?
Yeah, so we kind of got an idea of how members feel. So with that, let's just
We have to
in
log
the
off.
caucus and start our finance.
So we
meeting.
have to, yeah, we
Thank
we
you,
all
everyone.
have to log off and then I believe we have to log back on, correct?
It's a
The other
different.
link,
It's a
right?
different meeting
It's a
ID.
different link. It's a different link.
Okay.